RealPodcasts.com proudly presents The Wrestling is Real Podcast, because wrestling needs us. Presented by KingofAmazon.com. When you think of Amazon, think KingofAmazon.com. So there's a few things I could talk about when it comes to Elimination Chamber tonight that I liked, because there's not much to say about this show. First off, I'll say that Shayna Baszler was booked tremendous in the Elimination Chamber match for the Raw Women's title shot at WrestleMania 36. Shayna Baszler taking out the pack. Easily taking out the pack. Totally dominant in the cage environment. That story is being told right. And for everybody that thought that Shayna Baszler was going to be booked and buried, well, I guess we're not going to see that. It looks like they're going to actually keep going with her. And no interaction with her and Becky Lynch, just kept it as is. But I think that was the best thing they did of the entire night. Other than that, okay, I'll say that the SmackDown tag title match felt nothing to me. It's just like, okay, we're putting the tag teams into this match just to create something new. It's really just to create something novelty. The other thing I think was really stood out was after the Aleister Black AJ Styles match. So not only do you have Aleister Black win the match, you know, Gallows, Anderson, the OC the Gallows and Anderson are wiped out by the Undertaker. So again, quick movement right there. They built those two matches. So for what they could do on this pay-per-view, those are the two things they truly accomplished. Other than that, it was just a Raw. I mean, seeing Sami Zayn, Cesaro, and, Sami Zayn actually becoming the champ was the one that actually won the match. The handicap match won, but it looks like Zayn's the one that now holds the belt. I don't know if that means he keeps the belt or if he's going to be the one that, or he gives the belt over to Nakamura or Cesaro. I don't know. Not sure if they share it. We're not sure what that's going to be. Other than that, Andrade and Humberto Carrillo, I'm sorry. Can we just finish this already? We just got these guys being put together. It doesn't mean anything. I mean, maybe if you put a tag with Angel Garza, I guess we saw that too. Like, really, there's nothing else to do with Andrade. Move him on to somebody else. Humberto Carrillo, it's a non-factor for that guy. Nothing. I will say it was kind of interesting how they decided to start with Daniel Bryan and Drew Gulak in the match, which they could have just had it as a submission match, but they didn't push it as that. It was just a quick turnaround. But Drew Gulak and Daniel Bryan did work very well together to put together an interesting match. And for me, I've been reading some of the news where Daniel Bryan's got more creative control going on in the back. So the fact that maybe he wants to work with Drew Gulak and he got a curtain jerker match with Daniel Bryan has to be said something. Maybe Daniel Bryan, that's what he wants to do now. He wants to put some other guys over, and he has certain people he has in the mix that he feels like he can help push to a different level. And he probably knew Drew Gulak from back in the days in the Indies or something. Who knows? I don't know the whole story behind it, but that they did with that. Miz and Morrison being strong in this match. I thought that the SmackDown tag title match was fine. You know, I did not pay attention to Street Profits beating Seth Rollins and Murphy again. Didn't make a difference to me. And that was pretty much it. Like, really, this pay-per-view was just, I mean, it was a lot of Raw. But I think there were a couple of moments that stood out for this pay-per-view tonight. And that was, again, Aleister Black, AJ Styles, the post-match interference by The Undertaker. But, of course, that was after Aleister Black won the match in an ODQ. And then Baszler, which was the star of the night, really, I mean, the way they put it together, it was like one at a time. Pick them off. So basically, it was just cage style. And she was able to just take everybody out in no time. And, you know, Natalya put a little bit of a fight. The former Riot Squad had no chance against her. And, you know, I mean, hell, you know, it did look pretty nasty. Liv Morgan taking, you know, shots right there into the cage like that looked pretty nasty. I got to admit, she took some good bumps right there. I thought the bump that, you know, Otis took through the plexiglass, the Lexan glass, that looked pretty good. The Elimination Chamber matches as a whole, one was made to look completely different than the other. The way that the women's match was booked, that was probably one of the best booked matches of the year. I mean, when you're looking back at what all the stuff that was going on with Ronda and Becky Lynch and Charlotte last year, for my end of the bargain, I think that this was the best booked women's match probably in the last 4 or 5 months, maybe more than that. I did enjoy that part. I really did. Now, the matches weren't bad. But again, when you're looking at this being, and this is a problem. Super Showdown really didn't do much to build up WrestleMania. They didn't. And then the same thing goes with Elimination Chamber. It really built up to a couple of things. So AJ Styles, Taker, yes, it helped to continue the storyline that was built out of Super Showdown, which was also continued through Raw. So there is somewhat of a storyline that's been intertwined for AJ Styles and Undertaker. Okay, at least you're giving us the minimum effort for that match. As for, when you look at Shayna Baszler and Becky Lynch, well, that's been probably the best book storyline there is. Well, oh no, Randy Orton and Edge, which, by the way, nothing's being done on pay-per-view at all about it. So Randy Orton, there's nothing about that. Strictly a TV-based build, because they don't want to have Randy Orton or Edge touch hands until WrestleMania, most likely. So that's fine. Goldberg and Roman Reigns, nothing to be said about that. Nothing even involved. So they have to build that up on SmackDown over the next 4 weeks. See what they're going to do with that. Same thing with John Cena and Bray Wyatt. Like SmackDown, it's going to have to be good because they need time in 4 weeks to build those matches. Cena and Wyatt, Goldberg and Reigns, they need to build those matches. And as for Drew McIntyre, Brock Lesnar, they're doing a good job. And what's interesting above everything else, everything on Raw being built up for WrestleMania is being done 100 times better than what's being done on SmackDown. Does everybody notice that? Can we make that crystal clear? The show that is on Fox is supposed to be the bigger audience, the more mainstream audience, which is a bigger possible potential audience. That show is underperforming, right? And SmackDown, when you look at what they're doing, I really was not paying attention much to SmackDown this past Friday night. Felt like it was nothing really special. I mean, what? The build up to the SmackDown tag team match with the Miz and Morrison and they put the caveat so that Roode and Ziggler could go ahead and get in there last to lose anyway. That's what it was. I was like, nothing special about that. And I just felt like the show dragged. No star power at the beginning. None. Daniel Bryan, yes, that is your star power. But after that, no. Not really. You have to basically wait till AJ Styles, really. Because I don't feel like Miz and Morrison had that level yet. Even with those tag titles, they haven't been booked well. And, having their constant stuff that they're doing right now is what it is. I just think the SmackDown side has done a horrible job of booking. And the problem is that you have 3 matches, or no, it's 3 matches, right? That are on the side of the SmackDown side in the main event picture that absolutely have to be done correct. If they're not done correct, then I don't know what to tell you. Like, they need to get this done right, but they are not. And that's the biggest problem. Because at the moment, is the matches that you have of the 5 that are announced. Okay, Rhea Ripley, Charlotte Flair, you're booking it through NXT as well. So there's a bit of that. It's a different feud and there is a build to it somewhat. Goldberg Roman Reigns has no real build. A little bit of something they had, on Friday, but other than that, nothing. Like, you're going to have to really rely on the build coming up. And then John Cena making his appearance and to be confronted by The Fiend, okay, they make that match, but really nothing much more after that. Nothing of substantiation after that. Brock Lesnar, Drew McIntyre's got the build. So like I said, the matches that have been booked through Raw have been better built. But do we have that real super push towards WrestleMania? Do you really feel like WrestleMania this time around, as you're looking at the matches, do you feel like when you have 5 matches booked on the card that are official, do you really feel like we got something special here? Yes, AJ and Taker have not been put on the card yet. We know that all the other titles we built up. We know that they got the women's battle royal. We know we have the men's battle royal under the giant memorial battle royal. But other than that, what else do we got that are definite? Randy Orton and Edge, which for whatever reason has not been officially announced. Is that right? I don't know why it hasn't, but yeah, I don't know if it's been officially announced or not. Looking at Wikipedia, where normally it's pretty much solid, but I haven't seen it yet. So I'm kind of interested with why that is not the case now over there. But looking at the deal right now, 4 weeks away from WrestleMania, and only 5 matches announced. I just checked the FIFO as well. Yeah, they have not officially announced Randy Orton and Edge. They can't yet. I guess they're just going to wait till the last minute. So we know that's supposed to come in. AJ Styles and Taker has not been announced yet. They have to officially announce those matches. They actually have to go and set things up to say, okay, we're going to meet you at WrestleMania, point of the sign, all that shit. That hasn't been done yet. For 4 weeks away, and nothing substantial, except for Becky Lynch and Shayna Baszler locking in that match and knowing that Shayna Baszler was absolutely going to win that match. But the way they did it was so dominant, was well done. I appreciate that. They did that very well. And I'll give credit. I don't know who was the one booking that match, but I want to say, listen, it's on Paul Heyman's side, so I got to think there was some contribution over there. It was done very well. Goldberg and Reigns, we need to see more to it, man. You just can't have a short match and Roman Reigns gets the win. Like, you got to build something off of this. Again, Goldberg has to be the bad guy here if you can book him that way, or else Goldberg will be the good guy. Roman Reigns comes out bad, and then you are back to square one, back to where you were, 2013, 2014? Do you want to go back to that again? Do we really want to go back to that again? But I guess we will. And of course, WWE will have not learned yet. Funny thing was, Wrestling Observer Awards came out, and the announcements came out, and it's funny that, when you look at everything, it's really unfortunate, but fans, I believe, do actually put the announcements for those awards, right? And when you look at who was actually nominated and who won the awards, it's pretty funny that a lot of WWE did not get that high. And the reason for that was that and they're talking about it's an indictment on the company for not being able to do better and get stars that really people are talking about and really are enjoying, but they're not. And that's the problem. So we don't know what's going to go on here. It's like, why is it to that? But anyway, here we go. So they have announced who was going to be it. In the awards that they have, best box office draw was Chris Jericho. And it's amazing for all that he's done. Jericho, outside of the company, do you see anybody in WWE right now that really is bona fide, like people come to see him? Like, who's the John Cena? Who is the Brock Lesnar? I mean, Brock Lesnar's not even so much now because he doesn't come out enough. If he was out every week and every house show, probably a different story. But really, do we have anybody like him? Anybody like Taker, Austin, Rock? I mean, again, do you want to live back in the 90s or what? Do we have a CM Punk that even does that? No. Will Drew McIntyre become a big enough star to become a box office draw? Will that happen? Ask yourself the question. Best gimmick is Bray Wyatt. Worst gimmick is Shorty G. And look, if you're getting the worst and you're WWE, that's not good. That's not good at all. Tony Khan has been now named Promoter of the Year. When you look at what they're going through, I mean, it's amazing. Gato is Best Booker. That's for New Japan Pro Wrestling. Best on Interviews, Chris Jericho. And, he gets out there. There's a lot of time about this. Most disgusting promotional tactic is WWE continuing business in Saudi Arabia. And what culture is making mention of this? And they're saying, you know what? WWE made this moneyed bed. They're forced to lie into it for the remainder of their existence. So yeah, we see the Saudi Arabia shows. We're watching it. It doesn't feel good at all. It just sucks. Best wrestling maneuver is the Will Ospreay Stormbreaker, which does look pretty badass. Worst television announcer, Corey Graves. Who thought that would be him? But man, look at that. We thought that Corey Graves was going to be essential. But you know what? When they have to put him under script, and this is the problem of everybody over there on WWE. They're all scripted. They're all forced to say certain things. And, I mean, it doesn't matter how good Corey Graves can talk. He's not getting any help by having to go ahead and say the lines that he's fed by Vince or whoever in the back. It sucks. And that's where and it's a tough spot for him to be in, but that's where they're at. NXT was a different story, but he's here. He's having to do what he has to do, and it sucks for him. There's just nothing else he can do. Interesting that best TV announcer is Kevin Kelly, and that's for his work in New Japan, which he's good. I don't think he's the best. If I had to pick best announcer, I would almost say Excalibur. I can't do that. I know that. Yeah, it's tough. Well, no, actually, the best announcer is Joe Galli. That's my best announcer. NWA's Joe Galli. I'm surprised that guy didn't get higher up on the list. But again, power's not that big of a thing. But I'm telling you, Joe Galli, best wrestling announcer. And you know what? It is a bit of a mix. I think Mauro Ranallo probably goes second. And then I would probably put, honestly, Ian Riccaboni, Kevin Kelly. I'd put Excalibur in the same breath in like the third place spot, personally. And then I think Tom Phillips actually goes beneath that. And I can't put Michael Cole there because he's just a shill. But that's not his fault. I mean, it's what he has to do. So I can't knock him for that. Best non-wrestler is Paul Heyman. Well, that's a good pick. I can understand that. Most underrated wrestler, Shorty G. Look at that. Shorty G gets 2 numbers in there. So again, they're just using him badly. But this is what they do. Olympic wrestler, put Shorty G, look, I'm telling you, put Chad Gable anywhere else in another roster. He'll excel, but they won't let him do that here. And you know what? It's pretty shitty. And that's what it is. Rookie of the Year is Jungle Boy. That's pretty good. Jack Perry. Congratulations to him. Most overrated, King Corbin. I don't know if I don't know if he's overrated. I just think he is not being utilized right. I think he's done a shitty job. But he's the most, I would probably, if there's a category for worst book wrestler, I think Baron Corbin would be up there, personally. I don't like what they've done with him. Best high flyers, Will Ospreay. It's too bad I don't get to watch more New Japan. Most charismatic is Chris Jericho. Best brawler is Tomohiro Ishii. Again, but only watched him during Wrestle Kingdom, much else. Lance Archer, most improved. He is very good. And now he's going to move himself over to AEW pretty soon. We'll see what's going on with that. That's good. Zack Sabre Jr., best technical wrestler. Obviously, the best Wrestling Observer people, they're big New Japan fans. They're watching that pretty extensively. So here you go. Tag Team of the Year, Lucha Bros. I'm not sure I'll put them right there. I don't think I'd put them right there. I think, I wouldn't put Young Bucks. I don't know what I would put. That's a tough decision. When you're looking at what they have, when you look at the whole, only Lucha Brothers did have some great matches last year. But I also enjoyed LAX last year, before Proud and Powerful. I really did enjoy them together. It's going to be kind of tough, but, that's a toss-up. And there's nobody in WWE I really like. Really, there's nobody out there that really feels like, okay, I'm like locked in. You know what? I think Impact Wrestling's the North. That's one of my favorites. If I had to pick with somebody. Most outstanding TV show, AEW Dynamite. I can't disagree. I'd also put NWA Power right there and MLW Fusion right next to it out of almost second place, personally. Worst TV show, Monday Night Raw? Well, no, it's SmackDown. It's not Raw. Raw was bad, but I think it's gotten better. I think SmackDown's gotten really bad, and that's where I'm really going to go with things. But I understand what they're saying. Best major wrestling show, AEW Double or Nothing. Yeah, it was a pretty damn good show. Very good. And so far this year, Revolution has done a very good job. I must admit, they did really good. And yeah, if you put that, and I'd still put Wrestle Kingdom right there in the same vein, so I can't knock that. But Double or Nothing was very good last year. No doubt about it. Super Showdown, worst major wrestling show. Pretty agree with that. Any Saudi Arabia show is just not good. Best feud of the year, Adam Cole, Johnny Gargano. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I can give that. I got no problem with that. I'm trying to think if there's somebody else that was more of that, but no, right there, that's good. I'll take that. And not anything else. I wonder if they put a best faction here. I guess they haven't put that. Worst feud of the year, Seth Rollins versus The Fiend Bray Wyatt. Absolutely. I am fine with that decision. I have no disagreements there. Most outstanding wrestlers, Will Ospreay. Ospreay with third time on the list. Worst match of the year, Seth Rollins, Bray Wyatt, Hell in a Cell. Pretty good answer. That's a shit match. Oh my God, don't watch that again. Match of the year, Will Ospreay versus Shingo Takagi. And that was at the Best of the Super Juniors. Again, if you're going to watch those matches, you got to watch a lot of wrestling to watch the New Japan stuff. So I got to say that too. It's hard to keep up. Wrestle of the year is Chris Jericho. When you're talking about what he's been able to do to really build up, and honestly, he's gotten iconic, bit of the bubbly, Le Champion. Like, the guy continues to reinvent himself. And this character in AEW is fantastic. And I think he's as over as he's ever been, honestly, right now. Really, really good. Promotion of the year, New Japan Pro Wrestling. Yeah, I can't knock it out. I know people are going to be, a little biased towards that, and that's okay. Worst promotion of the year, WWE. Yeah, There we go. I got no problem with that there. Now, back to WrestleMania talk. Because when you look at the full crux of things, again, as we wrapped up this post show tonight, I'm not going to go much longer, just a few more minutes. When I look at WrestleMania coming up, I mean, they've put matches together, but again, do we really feel like anything's going on to really build up to the ultimate where we're going to say, okay, we're going to see something happen here. Like we're going to really feel like, all right, we're really going to get something going on where, a WrestleMania moment is going to happen. I mean, if we're going to just have another long, pretty good show, and again, WrestleMania is not utilized. I guess you can't do that now. But again, this company, they're not even trying now to worry about what WrestleMania is supposed to be. They're not really putting WrestleMania season in the context it's supposed to be. And then you got to ask yourself, like, there's nothing in NXT that you're going to bring up right now that's going to build up any more than it is. Like, what are you going to do? Bring up Undisputed Era? Undisputed Era has a ceiling. You can't bring that whole faction up there and think it's going to make a difference. It's not. NXT is made for Undisputed Era. They might as well just keep them down there. Other than that, there is nothing right now that really builds up to anything. And I'm not sure what to think of what is going to make anybody break out right now, because this environment is toxic. WWE right now is not in the right environment. It doesn't have the right environment ready to create stars. They can't. They cannot create baby faces. They can create heels, but then they also bring those heels down a lot. That's what they do all the time. There's nothing else. What's funny is right after Elimination Chamber, they were just showing the story of FCW, which I've talked about Florida Championship Wrestling. I thought it was great. And look at all the stars they have. If you've already looked at the special, I watched about a good half of it, and then I stopped to record this. There's so many stars right there that are still now here today from 2007 to now. Sheamus, Drew McIntyre, Heath Slater. Baron Corbin was back in those days. I mean, come on. Seth Rollins, Bray Wyatt. Look at all the talent you have. This is who you have right now. Really. The NXT talent that came from FCW, because Roman Reigns was there as the Yaki. Dean Ambrose was back there at that time. Jack Swagger was there by the time. Really, the NXT stars that have really gotten over, they were all holdovers from Florida Championship Wrestling when they were trained under Steve Keirn, Tom Pritchard, and the rest of the gang there. Billy Kidman, Norman Smiley, they did a better job. And that is a bigger subject to talk about. The Performance Center is basically nothing more than a fucking Planet Fitness. It's nothing more than a finishing school so that they know how to do mediocre, mid-card purgatory WWE style. That is it. Is that what we want from this company? That's the whole point. How many times do I have to go over and over about this? But it's like that. I look at that FCW footage and I'm saying, look at all the people they had. Bella Twins were back at that time. Look at that. When they paid somebody short change to run a company and they put some resources into it, instead of this millions of dollars Performance Center, look what you had. Look at what you were able to build. Now, the stars that came from FCW got polished in NXT, and yeah, you know what? It did build them better to where they're at now. But seriously, okay, you have the the association with Evolve, right? And what else? Like, seriously, what else do you have that's really going to build up? Because right now, this is where AEW wins. I mean, they don't have a developmental system. Their developmental system is anybody in the indies, and they're just picking out people they like. They're recruiting. Because there is no finishing school, no training school for AEW. They don't have a dojo. So you got to ask yourself then, okay, if this is the case, then why is it that with all that money and all those resources you put into it, with the cameras you put in there so you can follow along, so people can stand for it, can go and actually train, do these people know what they're doing? The problem is, the people at Titan Towers probably know how to market. They know how to promote, but they have to have the right talent. And this goes all the way to the bottom. Corporate structure. You could have great management, you can have a great team, but again, it's funny where Dave Meltzer's talking about, you don't need 40 writers to make a show. AEW is not doing it. They're figuring it out themselves. A couple of guys, the co-general, executive producers, they're figuring it out with nobody else. They're not writing scripts. People are talking. They're booking. They're not writing. They're storytelling. They're not scripted. Think about that. They're getting talking points, and they're all figuring it out. And their stories are much more intricate, detailed, woven, and you have things plotted out week after week after week from beginning to end. Look at the way that Revolution was booked after Full Gear. Look at how well every match, 7 matches on that card, and every one of them mattered. All of them. There was always something significant. There were multiple arcs in each storyline in some cases. That's how you book wrestling. What is WWE doing now? There's a couple things they're doing where, okay, TV, something different to what's going on. So it's not completely like, okay, together, and then we finally get the match. We're getting a little bit of some change and little, shuffling, but really nothing else. That's it. What are we going to do with that? Is that really what we want? Are we really happy with that? But that's what we are. To think of all the money that this company could throw. And you know what? When you got Super SmackDown, or Super Showdown, I keep saying Super SmackDown, Super Showdown, you have Elimination Chamber, you have things going on. NXT TakeOver, you're always going to get good shows because that's not developmental talent you're working with at all. NXT TakeOver, every time you have bona fide, solid talent. This last NXT show, you had Velveteen Dream. And, when you have Bianca Belair out there, those are 2 people within the system. Everyone else, they're indie people that have been out there for years. And they know what they're doing. And they know this environment. They work it to a T. You have professionals in NXT. That's what makes the takeover so good. Those are professionals. But the only thing is, those are indie professionals. That means they are not sports entertainers. They do not talk. They do not necessarily do, okay, everybody's praising Johnny Gargano with Morrison. Right. But again, that's like doing a sports interview with a UFC talent that might not have the best promo skills. Again, when you look at the full context of things, everything starts at the beginning. Right? When you look at what NXT is now, how they are incapable, whoever is training down there or whatever they're allowed to do down there, and why their gimmicks and their promo skills and whatever they learned in that performance center does not resonate all the way to the top, that is a top-down problem. That is a top-down problem. There are problems in Orlando because you might be operating that ship, but how many people do we see keep getting signed that go nowhere? There's a lot. There's people that we've heard about that were always that got into the system. Have we even heard about them? Do you ever see them on tour in NXT? No. But really, if you're in Florida, maybe you see some of these stars, but that's it. There's nothing else. The old FCW system is kind of still in play in NXT for Florida, where Florida gets some house shows, and this is where we get some of these other stars trying to get trained. But is anybody coming up from that? Absolutely not. The whole system needs some work. There needs to be some oversight or something going on to figure out what the pipeline is. And this is where somebody needs to be coming in as operations, not for all the stuff they're doing in terms of business, but the product. Who is doing the oversight and figuring out, okay, this needs to be done here. This everything from top down, not from the TV side, because you got people on the TV side. What Vince needs to work about now is what's happening from the recruitment, from the talent relations point, from the NXT local brand to the NXT brand we see on TV every week to making it up to the main roster. This has to be examined. The Performance Center, from that up to the main roster, there are major problems here. And this is where you have to fix it. And the problem is you cannot fix what you already have broken on the main roster, because what you have on the main roster, they are tainted, they are soiled, and there's nothing you can do about building them up any bigger unless you get lucky. Maybe Drew McIntyre gets lucky and something happens. Shayna Baszler, if you keep her where she is, she will mean something in the long run. But then what else? And you got to ask yourself, what is this company going to do? But this is a big problem. They have it, and this point, it's the lower end of the chain. That's why this whole totem pole up is wrong. They are having issues, and they're not figuring it out. And they need to figure this out fast if they want to be able to stay around. Anyway, 30 minutes. We'll leave it there. Thank you all for listening in. Come back for another Wrestling Israel podcast coming up later this week. On Wednesday, where we'll go and get all prepped up for Ring of Honor's 18th anniversary show. We'll also find out if there's anything else built out from the Raw for WrestleMania to get us somewhere. Can we get somewhere with things? I mean, let's build some matches, guys. Come on. So we'll see what happens there. Anyway, come back this coming Wednesday for another Wrestling Israel podcast, because wrestling needs us.
Thank you for listening to the Wrestling Israel podcast, brought to you by KingofAmazon.com. For more information on how to subscribe to the show, how to share the Wrestling Israel podcast to listeners like you, and check out the latest wrestling headlines, go to WrestlingIsReal.com. That's WrestlingIsReal.com.